Chapter 108, The Great Battle with the Demon Path. The demon chart appears, fortune and misfortune reverse. A middle-aged man in a black Taoist robe slowly walked in front of the two, oblivious to their existence. They were all smiles, clearly unworried about the death of the Jiaolong. Perhaps it's for the best that this obstinate creature died. It saves me some effort. You! Hanya never thought he could utter such words. He initially thought this Jiaolong and the Taoist were in cahoots. However, based on his observations, this was not the case, and there seemed to be more to the story. Step aside, you are no match for him. The usually cheerful countenance of Chu Shanyu became unusually solemn as she stood in front of Han Yi. Huh? His action touched Han Yi somewhat, but it also pricked his pride. A grown man, needing to be protected by a woman. Even if the woman in question is powerful, he still felt a sting to his dignity. Miss Chu, are you no longer mad? This is not the time for that. Chu Shanyu turned her head and said solemnly. In her eyes, Han Yi was still a bit out of tune. This foolish behavior was sometimes too impulsive, such as his proposal before coming here. It was to use his own body as bait, personally go to the underwater monster nest and lure the Jiaolong out. She had been opposed to this idea, not believing that Han Yi could handle the Jiaolong, but his progress exceeded her expectations. Compared to a year ago, Han Yi had made tremendous progress. Not only had he broken through to the foundation establishment, but like her, he had achieved perfect foundation building and had several protective talismans. This reassured her. Now she was worried about Han Yi's recklessness, prompting her to say these words. Han Yi was the first to intrude into her life, and she couldn't bear to see him fall before her. Since you have slain the King Zhao, I can't let you live. The man in the black robe stopped talking. Magical power swirled around him, creating the phantom of a small figure, as if an infant, sparkling and translucent, lifting the middle-aged man into the air with an unstoppable pressure. A nascent soul? Hanai's pupils contracted. This demonic cultivator is a genuine nascent soul strength cultivator. In the world of cultivation, anyone who can raise a golden core has the qualification to stand alone to establish a sect, whereas a nascent soul is often referred to as a perfected. Even in the Dragon Sparrow sect, the nascent soul was a necessary condition for becoming an elder candidate. A few disciples of true inheritance possessed the cultivation of nascent soul, such as his acquaintance Pei Likong. Chu Shanyu stood with her sword, unbowed, under the azure blue sky, standing amidst the bright moon. She seemed fearless, no matter who the opponent was. Buzz! The Kangbi trembled slightly, and with a whoosh, it rose to the sky, turning into several tens of feet of green swordlight, and attacked the black-robed demonic cultivator. The moon was high, and the stars were sparse, and all was silent. Slash! As the word slipped from her mouth, her swordplay moved as swift as a startled heron, a stream of swordlight slanting across a mountain peak on the shore, passing through it. Boom! The mountain peak was split, the upper half sliding down and shattering at the foot of the mountain. The remaining peak was as smooth as a mirror, slightly tilted so the sea surface could reflect the moon in the sky. It was difficult to discern whether the moon was in the sky or the mountain peak. Such power, she must be a golden core cultivator, right? Han Yi was shocked by what he saw, and couldn't help but exclaim. The sword key carried by Chu Xianyu's sword was formidable enough to split a peak in half, leaving no one at early foundation building stage a match for her. Only a golden core cultivator could compete with her. However, the black-robed demonic cultivator's surging magical power formed into a giant hand, stopping the terrifying sword key in its track. Just by looking at this dazzling sword key, one's eyes would feel a stabbing pain. The attributes kept dropping incessantly. Acquired attribute, Sword Art Mastery 1. Acquired attribute, Sword Art Mastery 1. Acquired attribute, Sword Art Mastery 1. Considering your age, your skills are extraordinary. You must not be from an insignificant background. Where did you learn your skills? I'm somewhat intrigued. Such an impressive sword drew the attention of the black-robed demonic cultivator. He brought out his full power. Threads of dark luminescence began to escape from his large sleeves. Small strands of sword ki burrowed out from the mountain peak and met with the luminescence, which seemed to absorb the sword ki, growing more massive. Ultimately, the fleeting sword ki, being rootless, was quickly wiped out. The instantaneous sword ki belongs to an ancient and enduring method of swordsmanship. The only one to possess such a thing would be Fuyao State. You are a sword cultivator from Fuyao State, no wonder. Even in the midst of battle, the black-robed demonic cultivator didn't forget to admire Chu Jianyu's swordsmanship. From his extensive knowledge, he was able to identify Chu Jianyu's origin. The Fuyao State during the Middle Age era was home to many sword immortals, giving birth to many sword prodigies. Some possessed innate sword heart clarity, and some carried a sword fetus at birth. The sword palaces in Fuyao were numerous: the Tongshan Sword Sect, Luofu Sword Palace, Fuyao Sword Palace, and the Baiyu Sword Sect. All once held significant influence during the Middle Age era. After the Great War towards the end of the Middle Age era, these were all swallowed by the Fuyao Sword Palace, thus creating the only establishment with an inheritance of sword immortals. Han Yi seldom saw an enemy that Chu Shanyu could not defeat with one sword. Chu Shanyu stepped back, still cool and calm. Her white sleeves rustled in the wind, and a mysterious, ancient aura began to gather on her sword, Kangbi. Countless green glowing rays spilled from her white clothes, like a glacier in reverse, forming into a green river that shot up into the 9 heavens. In the blink of an eye, it transformed in the eastern night sky into a green divine phoenix. Han Yi could sense that Chu Shanyu seemed to be drawing power from her immortal sword. The man in the black robe had been observing Chu Jianyu's techniques, and his eyes widened at the sight of the increasingly powerful green divine phoenix. This is an immortal sword. An immortal's word. The face of the black-robed demonic cultivator turned slightly as he conjured a black jade gourd, and upon opening the stopper, hundreds of black light beams shot out. These beams formed layer upon layer of illusory mountains, attempting to seal the sword within. You are a sword wielder from Fuyao State. The demonic cultivator stood arrogantly in mid-air, suppressing the sword phenomenon caused by Chu Shanyu and squinting his eyes. As far as I know, of the 8 immortal swords left behind in the Middle Age era, only 5 have been found. The immortal sword Raging Flame is with Chu Liaching, the second young master of the Chu family, while the Cold Waterfall is with the princess of the Gold Crow Kingdom. The Thunder Pool is with someone from the demonic sect. The Dull Gold, Earth Burial, and Heavenly Frost swords have all been lost without a trace. The sword in your hand must be the Forbidden One, Kangbi. Quickly, the demon cultivator recognized the sword in Chu Jianyu's hand. At this moment, Han Yi was anxiously pacing back and forth as he watched the battle from afar, unsure of what to do. Think of a way. Think of a way. Chu Shanyu was in danger, and he should do something. He had already relayed everything that had happened here back to the sect, but it would take time for the message to reach the sect and for the elders to rush over here. He wasn't sure if they would arrive in time. Just then, a voice echoed in Han Ye's mind. "Boy, sacrifice the true fire, and I will consider opening the demon chart and lending you a strand of power. I have been dormant for thousands of years and am quite bored. That guy out. There is nothing." The gloomy tone of voice momentarily stilled Han Ye's expression. He had momentarily forgotten that he had the soul of a demon dragon within him. However, he had always believed that there was something off about this demon dragon. First, it had demanded to devour the true fire, and then it had spontaneously devoured the Jiaolong's yin god. All of the actions were to enhance its own strength. It seems that this guy has his own ambitions. Perhaps he could take advantage of this ambition. This was, after all, the supreme immortal artifact that had once been in the hands of the demon lord, containing heavenly divine powers and inheritance. If he could obtain even 1 or 2 of them, it would be a great improvement to his own powers. As this thought crossed Han Ye's mind, his thoughts stirred slightly. I can feed the true fire to you, but I cannot sacrifice the true fire to you. Don't be hasty, just think about it. If you directly devour my true fire, it will be gone immediately. But if you keep the spark alive, I can slowly cultivate the true fire and continuously supply it to you. Isn't that the right way? Fear was silent for a long while. Cunning human. That was how the demon dragon eventually responded. Han Yi smiled slightly, asking, "So, do you want this true fire or not? Not just the true fire, if I cultivate stronger spiritual medicines in the future. The help they can provide you is not simply limited to a strand of the true fire. Even the essence, key, and blood that you need are not a problem." Between his words, he had already started to draw the picture for this demon dragon. Ha 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 ha. The demon dragon's laughter echoed in the mind. His voice was long and profound. "Kid, do you think you're very powerful and smart? I've seen many arrogant supreme beings in my thousands of years. Your little tricks are nothing more than child's play. However, I need a host like this. I need an ambitious kid. A guy without ambitions is nothing more than a chicken waiting to be slaughtered." The demon dragon's domineering and dull voice echoed in the mind. "Since we have agreed upon the exchange, how will you give me the power of the demon chart?" Han Yi questioned. "Transfer your true fire to your chest, and I will absorb it." A black flame, the Karma Lotus True Fire, slowly unfurled and entered Han Yi's chest, providing a continuous supply. The absorption was particularly strong, causing the true fire to dim immediately. Immediately after, a vague scroll of ink painting spread open across his chest. Dragon shadows danced wildly, black inscriptions covered Han Yi's whole body, containing profound truths of the universe. "Roar!" the dragon roared, and Han Yi instantly felt a terrifying force transmitting through the demon chart into his body. His entire body turned frigidly cold, and this force was concentrated in his right arm. The sudden change caused his entire arm to be covered by layers of black scales, densely packed, inducing fear at a glance. "Good, good, good." Han Yi's eyes lit up, filled with joy in his heart. He felt that the power in this arm had been amplified more than 100 times. An unimaginably explosive power was concentrated in one arm. It seemed like he could destroy a mountain with a single punch. Thud! Hania took off from his spot, leaving a spiderweb-like trail on the ground, with key waves flying in all directions. His fingers clenched tightly, continuously mustering his strength. A colossal phantom of a torrential demon dragon emerged behind Han Yi, slowly rising. Its glaring eyes were fixed on the demon cultivator at the height, sending a chilling sensation down his spine. He pressed his large hand down. The obsidian gourd on one side suppressed Chu Jianyu's sword ki. His body turned to look at the black dot that was rapidly approaching from afar. "This power, it feels so familiar." Before he could react, a strong force arrived in a flash, punching straight on his face through the blowing wind. The demon cultivator raised a finger, and boundless magic power converged to form the outline of a blood-red crow, shooting towards the other party. Caw! The blood-red crow streaked across the void. In the blink of an eye, it was shattered by a beam of light. Bang! A meteor became a human shadow, striking a punch right before the demon cultivator, causing him to fly backwards. Like a kite with a broken string, the demon cultivator was violently thrown back, crashing through 6 large mountains before he finally slowed and stopped. Such a terrifying demon key. What is this? With a sound of spitting, he spat out a large mouthful of blood, looking horrified and at a loss. Just what was that power just now?